into a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, agorisms, new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unplanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Welcome to the late night edition of the Legacy Ride. We're back at our regular time. I am the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. I am Zachary Kaiser. And what is up there, Andrew?
Not much, man. Just hanging out. How you guys doing tonight?
I think we're doing pretty fine. So, how about yourself? How's that
Doing
snow
okay.
going on the beach?
Well, it's started to really melt away, so but it's still fun to
Um,
have.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, we got a good old show for you tonight. We have Brandon from Agorist Nexus. We're going to talk about some Agorist Nexus news, uh, latest biography that's going to be coming out uh, about Samuel Edward Konkin III. And we'll mix it up a little bit, honestly, and try to get into some other things, especially about Ross. I'm still
Right?
excited about that. So,
Yeah.
but
Trust
anything to
but
start
verify,
off?
right?
Anything to
I
start
mean,
off before we bring our
I'm
special
just,
guest on?
I'm pumped. I hope that, there's gonna be some real libertarian, things being fleshed out here in the next couple of years. I I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
what's gonna happen. It's play it by ear, right? You gotta trust but verify.
I don't know if he maybe he should have just stayed in prison, man, because he really just got sentenced to 20 years of libertarian
YouTube
podcast.
podcasts. I'm sorry, X. That's the new place to be.
X is the new place to be. Well, let's bring our special guest on and welcome him to the show. How are you doing today, Brandon? Or tonight, I should say.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you for coming on. So, I guess to start it off, though, let's get into the excitement, actually. Ross Ulbricht pardoned fully by the Orange Tyrant himself. He actually lived by his promise.
Orange Man
Yeah,
good?
yeah. I wouldn't say good, but yeah, I mean, I'm loving that part. I'm glad he did it. I'm I'm kind of disappointed that it wasn't day one, but and everyone wants to like bitch about it or whatever and tell me I'm just like complaining and shit, but I wanted day one, man, so he said
Yeah.
day one and that's what I wanted. So
Yeah.
you know I don't think
Yeah,
I'm
he was.
overreacting or anything. I'm not trying to complain or whine about it and shit. You know, I have nothing to apologize for wanting it day one. So yeah.
Well, I mean, he was in jail for that significant period of time. You know, if he promises day one, it's day one, right? So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
amazing that. Yeah, it's good that it happened, but at the same time, it was always. It's just pandering, though. I mean, nothing's gonna change with it. I mean, Ross sat there in prison for all 4 years of Donald Trump's first term, so why now?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. The thing about it, I guess there was like a huge debate about it between Saul Mayweather and like Dave Smith, and it was the main argument was that it was political action that got him released, and
Mhm.
I'm on Saul's side here. It was basically anti-political action. It was just individual action that got him released because. Um, it got turned into such a movement by his mom, Lynn Ulbricht, that
Yeah.
that it became so well known and so well campaigned that that Donald Trump decided to use it as a for use that situation for political gain.
Yeah.
So if his mom didn't if there wasn't so much individual action, if his mom and others didn't campaign so hard for it, um,
Mhm.
it wouldn't have been something that would have even been used or cared about as political gain. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it was mostly just anti-political, but the final release, the final pardon was political. I'll give them that much though. So
Exactly. But yeah, it was. It was all a movement. So everybody had their part to play, and Donald Trump. I mean, inevitably, it was always going to be political from the start. You're going to have to get that pardon. So It's going to lead to a political action, but at the same time, it was the action of many people that stepped up and tried to get this thing done, and it led to whispering into Donald Trump's ear and get him on track. And it also helps with the lawfare that he had to deal with. So he's an egotistical narcissist, and his egotistical narcissism helps. So, I mean, and I'll take it. I'll take it as a win.
right.
It's just, I think, if you're gonna have something like this, you have to give some kind of context as to why it has to happen. His first four term as president, or 4 years as president, his first term, he had to do some kind of pressure test to see what they would do, how they would respond, so he could pivot and create a second act. I said that at a World Blockchain Roundtable about a month ago, and I think that's considered an option as to why this is the way it worked out.
Amen to that. Yeah. So, where do we go from here, though? Honestly, where do we go from here? Like, what is the next step, though?
I mean,
And
I,
in terms of Ross's situation, or
in terms of the entire situation, like you have Ross, you get the win there. So, what's the next chapter? I mean, how do we get into? I mean, there's others out there that are still
yeah,
under the
Roger
same
Ver.
political.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'd say that's the one that we've got to focus on the most, because it's probably the most important one in my opinion, and it's the most frivolous one too. But yeah, I believe Roger Ver is definitely the one to focus on. I mean, I want to focus on all of them, but uh,
his they're trying to create a precedent with his case.
yeah, yeah, it's all lawfare. If the United States had
mhm.
balls, they would just create political prisons and start locking people up.
Yeah,
For political, it's a, for political crime and shit, but and make
I
them
mean, they
political refugees, but they have to like try to find something. They've got to make everything illegal, and then then they can go from there and just kind of pick and choose who they want to try to um, lock up. So, but it's a bullshit case in the first place. Roger Vere's he hasn't been a citizen for 10 years.
mm,
I think the crime was like in 2017 or something. Uh, all the crypto laws were like,
mhm.
all gray back then. He even hired like
The
accountants and
still
lawyers and shit to try
he
to,
had he had two different accounting firms to run over
yeah,
his numbers.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, just a bullshit case in general. And he does so much for the movement, for the crypto space. Um, I don't know if it's intentionally, but he does a lot for agorism as well. And he's a huge voluntary, self-proclaimed voluntarist, anarchist. So yeah, and then just a good guy too.
Yeah.
yeah, he is, and he was one of the first, especially on the onslaught of like crypto becoming really esteemed. He was one of the first, and even before then, he was one of the first to truly call out the tax system and the money monopoly and the wars and the war atrocities and the empire in itself. And I mean, it's gotten him on the hot seat. Hell, I mean, he talked about it on his interview with Tucker. I mean, he called out the ATF for what they did in Waco, and he wind up with a federal charge not long ago for selling fireworks or firecrackers, actually.
Yeah.
Everybody else is doing the same thing in a iffy gray area time at on the beginning stages of eBay. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and that was because he was running as a candidate
Although
for libertarian in California. I can't remember I can't remember if it was for the House of Representatives or for Senate or for governor, but it was for the Libertarian Party, and he was saying all kinds of stuff that the government didn't like, and uh, and yeah, the whole Waco ATF incident was definitely one of them.
hey, I love it. I love it. He calls it out, and that's the reason why like crypto is key in my opinion. If you want to stop paying for wars and atrocities and mass murder of children, I mean, divorce from the monetary system and get yourself into crypto. I mean, there's Bitcoin's been hijacked, but there's other avenues that you can jump into. I mean, there's
that's
Monero, there's Bitcoin Cash. Say that
that's why
again,
it's
Andrew.
open source. That's why it's open source. It's because
Mm.
it's the world's most peaceful struggle session, right? If you need to use money for daily transactions, then you you assert your dominance as a person, but it's voluntary. So
Voluntary, like this fire department that's on my shirt.
right,
So
Nice.
that's what
Yeah,
I
man.
feel like.
Money's like money's really like how they get their power. I mean, they print money and then they use that, and they not only make everybody poor, but they use it for wars and all kinds of stuff. And then the central bankers who the country owes money to, because like how can a country be in debt, right? Like how's a country like
Mhm.
almost 40 trillion in debt? Who are they in debt to? Like that's just everyone used to talk about the debt. And when I was little, I was like, well, aren't they like the top of the pyramid? Like who are they in debt to? And they're in debt to the central banks, the Federal Reserve. And so, and the Federal Reserve's not. It's supposed to sound governmental, but as we all know, and everyone said it hundreds of times, it's not federal and there's no reserves. But
Hmm.
but yeah, so who we owe money to, the central bankers, they fund both sides of the wars. They cause wars. One of the Rothschild mothers, I think her name's like Gretchen or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
she said if my sons didn't want war, there wouldn't be any. So, and then that's how arrogant and egotistical she was. But I mean, she was probably backing it up too. She could probably actually say things like that. But what kind of mother would say that and like be proud of it?
Yeah.
I would
Hmm.
beat my kid's ass if they, started a war that killed, thousands of people. So
Countless people.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just say countless people. I mean, who knows?
oh yeah,
I remember seeing a video. I think it was like up in the millions and millions of people from World War II. So it's just insane.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
it all drives from war. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the Federal Reserve was signed into law and made a reality, and then the domino effect of the total wars uh, history that we live in began as we entered into World War One. So World War One was inevitable, but I mean, they needed somewhere to establish uh, a new system to where they could allocate and launder money, because Europe was going to be in a world of hurt after these insane large scale like meat grinders that they were putting themselves through. And I mean, then the United States was handpicked. It's like history rhymes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Britain.
World War One was the war that started all wars. I mean,
Hmm.
if you didn't have World War One, you definitely wouldn't have had World War Two because of the Treaty of Versailles and that Germany was forced to pay these like massive reparations
Reparation.
to all the other European countries, and they got the you know shitty end of the deal. And so yeah,
Yeah, they got the shitty end of the deal, and the world got Hitler and Stalin. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah,
So, but to tie in, so let's white pill this thing though before we get a little too much. History has too much depressing negativity, so let's white pill this. Speaking of agorism and entering into the agora, um, how do we educate people into understanding what agorism is, and how and how and why it can be a good utilization of our own human ingenuity to stop us from fighting wars of great atrocity and destruction like World War One or World War Two.
yeah, yeah. Great question. I ask myself that all the time, like, how do I spread agorism? I think you had like multiple questions in there, but yeah, I ask myself that all the time. And then, how do we use it to end wars? Well, yeah, we just talked about that. The we take away their money supply, or we take away their power structure with the money supply. They can no longer do it. Uh, oh shit. Oh, so sorry about that.
It's all right.
You're
Money's
good.
like the lifeblood, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, you replace the blood from the system, and you had to make adjustments, significant adjustments, to affect a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, and so how do we spread agorism? Well, at Agorist Nexus, that's like our main mission, and memes have been extremely effective. I could have
Yes,
people go to
sir.
articles and shit, and I could post articles all day, and it doesn't get nearly the amount of views that one little meme would. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there's that, and because a lot of people have really short attention spans, so they they don't want to read for 10 minutes. They just want a quick idea that can be um a quick idea that can be broken down very simply, and
Easily
then
absorbed.
um and then have it be entertaining. They want that quick dopamine hit real quick. And yeah, I think memes, um you know we also have to ask ourselves, like why agorism, right? And that's because no other no other political philosophy has this like huge core of consistency, and consistency is so important. Konkin said
Mm-hmm.
that if even if he was wrong, um, that agorism is not. Even if he wasn't consistent, that agorism is. So even if he wrote like a mistake in New Libertarian Manifesto, I don't see any mistakes in New Libertarian Manifesto, but he even says this: if there's like a mistake in these pages, um, then the new Reformation, the new consistent Reformation, is agorism, um, or new libertarianism, which is agorism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and consistency is super important and at the core of agorism, because if you don't have that, you've got major issues. Like you don't know, we no longer know what a Republican is today, or a Democrat is today, because in 10, 15 years they could be completely different. I mean, look at the
Mm-hmm.
Republican Party now. The Republican Party now, they're all Democrats. Or they were in the late 90s, they were all Democrats. If you look at like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Trump, they were all Democrats in the 90s. So
Mm-hmm.
um uh back when JFK was president, you know he ran as a Democrat, but he would be super uh, Republican today, even more than, you know, uh, I'd say 96% of the Republicans in office right now. So,
No doubt.
so there's that. And so, like, if you don't have consistency, you don't really know where you're going to be at in 5 or 10 years. And we can see that historically. Where's the physical conservative Tea Party? Uh,
Right.
back in
Mm-hmm.
the early 2010s. Where the anti-war Democrats
Mm-hmm.
in the 2000s? There's they're both extinct, and
Yeah.
that's because they didn't they didn't keep that, and that's because there's no consistency in their political ideologies. A Democrat, Elon Musk was saying this, and Democrats used to be for free speech,
Yeah.
and now they're like Soviets. So, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of like North Koreans. They want to censor you, or you know put you in uh, prisons for saying something that they don't like. So, um, why agorism? Well, consistency, definitely. I went from anarcho-capitalism to agorism because agorism has consistency and a strategy. a strategy to create a voluntary society. And that's really why Konkin
Hmm.
came up with agorism, was because the main question was how do we get from uh, where we are now to a voluntary society, and the answer to that was agorism. Now, some people kind of try to critique agorism in terms of like voting or like not liking corporations, but both of those are wrong in my opinion, because the corporations they'll they either control the government or they do exactly what the government says.
Hmm.
So and the main problem with the corporations is that they can they're shielded from liability. So if a regular company that's not a corporation, uh, if a regular company gets sued, well, the head of that company has to pay for damages, and they're liable. If it's a corporation, the person doesn't get the CEO doesn't get the CEO is not liable for damages, or whoever
Hmm.
the owner of the company is not liable for damages. Only the company in and of itself, or I'm sorry, the corporation in and of itself is liable for
Hmm.
damages. So that's a huge issue, because you see Johnson Johnson creating all of these subsidiaries um, of Johnson and Johnson, and uh, they're doing it just so that those subsidiaries are the ones being liable, and then they'll once the subsidiaries get hit with the damages, then Johnson and Johnson can just shut it down, or do whatever they need to. So
Yeah.
it's
Or
actually
absorb
become
it.
a bigger problem than a lot of people think. Um,
Yeah.
Hmm.
in terms of voting, uh, you know, I believe it's a huge waste of time. It's like people are like, well, we got to pick one side or the other. It's like, you don't really think they're both owned. You didn't really think that the banking cartel, or whoever you want to call them, the deep state, you didn't
Hmm.
think that they thought of this yet. Um, so, so in my opinion, it doesn't really matter, who sits on the throne. I think one of the Rothschilds said, I can't remember if it's Herschel Amstel Rothschild, or
It's Nathan. I think I know where you're
yeah,
going
Nathan
with.
Rothschild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
Nathan.
So, if I control the money supply,
Yep.
I care not who makes its laws. So
Hmm.
so yeah, voting doesn't even matter, and thing too is like, why legitimize this system that obviously doesn't represent us, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, even taxation with representation sucks, but at the end of the day, uh, are we really like represented? I don't think so. Like look at Congress's approval ratings, but um,
Hmm.
uh, has voting really been effective over the last 200 years? Absolutely not. We've been in a death spiral, literally. And
Yeah.
the United States was definitely more free when even King George was the tyrant with his 2% T tax. Now if you add up all of the taxes that everyone pays, it's at least 60%. You're talking about property, income, all of it. So
Hmm.
uh, so yeah, voting sucks. Um, it's a waste of time. There's actually a great quote, and I don't have it on me, but I can paraphrase it. It basically says that, like, if you want to reform the system, you need like the majority, right? Because it's a system based on the majority. Whether it's a republic or a democracy, it doesn't matter. You need the majority to basically go over every single law and figure out what is, which laws to keep, which laws to reform, which laws to get rid of. You need everybody to be
Yeah.
educated on every single little thing, which is, I don't have time for that. I don't think anybody has time for that. So,
No.
and the government keeps you busy on purpose because they keep you impoverished. But then, so he goes on to say that, right? But then he says that abolishment is a lot easier because you only need one idea for it.
Yeah.
It's not like
Mhm.
Reformation where you have to know every single thing. When you abolishment's easier because you just need one idea, and that is that authority from these extortionists is wrong. So,
Mhm.
and it is because they force you to do things without your consent, like taxes and you name it. So
Mhm. Well, agorism is predominantly economic, but what are your thoughts on utilizing agoristic principles on a on the political system while how I had it better in my mind. Agorism is predominantly economic, but what are your thoughts on utilizing a political philosophy entangled with agorism on a more local level in trying to liberate local cells, neighborhoods, communities, even townships from state and federal authority for which they can nullify what is perceived to be tyrannical?
I mean, I think it's a waste of time. Trying to reform every law and trying to convince everybody, trying to convince everyone of every single law is just a
Hmm.
huge waste of time, in my opinion. I think if everyone really wanted to get down to it, um, we could make, you know, we could all make the system go away almost overnight if everybody got involved. That's all it takes. Like, the people are way more powerful than they think they are. Um, you know, if everyone used Monero tomorrow, um, we would, we would be super, we'd be super rich and we'd have economic prosperity like never before. And and yeah, and I think that we can build systems to basically, you know, you never there's another great quote, and I can actually probably find that one, but it's by Buck something. Let me pull it up. I don't know if you guys want me to pull it up, but or I can
Oh,
probably paraphrase it real fast if you want me to. It's up to you. Um,
either one's fine
Yeah,
with me.
if you want to pull it up,
yeah, man, I
yeah,
almost got it here. It'll take a couple seconds. Let me see.
you're you're good. But the only reason I asked on the political is I'm gonna plug out Mike Decentralized, but he is of the idea of liberating one's locale through coalition building. I mean, and not everybody's astute towards the idea of economical uh, economical utilization of the market to divorce themselves. So we kind of had like baby steps here and there to kind of get people like educated, like, hey, if we can defy all, like maybe we can nullify and then get back to business building systems in place that can legitimately erode government, not necessarily governance, but government from even the local. If we can nullify the higher, we can fix the local and then eventually eradicate it, because you don't necessarily need to be governed by a government. We can all govern ourselves with ourselves, and then as the dirty word of collective, the community gets together as well, building relationships and cooperating, but building like coalitions amongst people to educate them. That's like the hardest part, and I don't know if we can just easily transcend into a more agoristic pathway when not everybody is ready for that. So that's the only reason I asked. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. That's why, because I don't know if people are actually ready. Like if we wanted to, we could tomorrow. Just if we could get everybody together to just stop paying taxes, the government, your
Yeah,
state government, your federal government, like even your local government would probably collapse. So,
yeah. I mean, I think the other way's harder, to be honest. Like everyone thinks going through politics, is easier. It's like it's like watching the rebels in Star Wars, joining
mhm.
the Empire to try to change it from within. Here's the quote here, and then again, you're trying to change everybody's mind, and stuff like that, and convince them of issues. Um, but here's the quote, and you've got to get them on board with every single policy and shit. The quote is, "You never change things
Mm.
by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And that's Buckminster Fuller. And
Okay.
I completely agree with that quote. And that's agorism right there. Satoshi, he didn't like run for, run to eventually get to be, treasury secretary and shit like that.
Mhm.
He just made Bitcoin, and and then look how fast that got adoption in 10 years. So um so yeah, I definitely think that's the way to go. He basically made their whole entire system obsolete. Now they're trying to co-opt it, and people are kind of letting them infiltrate it.
Mhm.
But yeah, the technology that he created is probably one of the most important human innovations mankind will ever see. So yeah, that's pretty much how it is. You can't you know you can't really. It's also it's also a huge waste of time, like trying to do all this. You know, having like the nice Imperial stormtroopers, and like trying to get like each and every single one of them to like, you know, teach every single one of them like the non-aggression principle, and
Mhm.
uh, you know, uh, it just now I think the only thing that I'm kind of on board with is jury nullification. Now, I wouldn't like personally like volunteer to sign up. I guess like some agorists would. So I wouldn't like personally volunteer to get involved with like a jury or anything. But again,
Mhm.
jury duty is mandatory. Once you get that note,
Yeah.
you've got to go in, or else there's heavy consequences to it. So you're pretty much forced to participate um, in a jury. Now, if they had ever brought up like jury nullification, I would lie about it. So that if it was if the case was a victimless crime law, that I would just say not guilty, and call it a day. But yeah, that those are my thoughts on it.
That's jury nullification is a fantastic idea. I wish more people knew exactly how to utilize it. It shouldn't be, and I mean, according to constitutionally, it's not supposed to be mandated, but obviously the Constitution's just toilet paper, so who really cares? I mean, what the government wants to force us to do or not. So I mean, we can be up until from 1860 at the onslaught of the Civil War, 1863 till midway through Vietnam, we were conscripting soldiers. So I mean, okay, so government's slavery. So freedom is slavery. That's all that's all it is. It's the Orwellian idea is come to reality before 2025.
It's like trying to walk people off the edge of a cliff, right? You got to just show, okay, you can trust these people that they will volunteer for whatever, program that you've got going on. So let's see if we can keep moving forward in baby steps.
Yeah, beautiful. So,
Yeah, I
and
mean, I don't really want to like try to convince anybody of anything. I just want to live free now. So
Yeah.
so I think if everyone focused on the market, that we could achieve freedom way quicker than trying to change people's opinions about things, because people are like super opinionated. I mean, the thing is that even like 15 years ago, I would try to tell people, 15, 20 years ago, I've been a libertarian for a very long time, since 2002. Now, I was a different libertarian back then. I was more like a minarchist, probably not a
Mhm.
real libertarian, quote unquote, but I did register for the Libertarian Party in '04, and I voted for Michael Badmark. But even back then, I would tell people, I would try to convince people of like, uh, you know, certain issues, and Ron Paul really opened my eyes to like the Federal Reserve, because I didn't um, I didn't really know how big of an issue that was till he said something about it. And when he spoke about the money supply, it was like, yeah,
Mhm.
I was already libertarian, clicked for me. But then I would try to tell other people, and it's like, yeah, whatever, who cares?
They've been doing
And
that
people
since
just,
I was a kid.
yeah, prices going up is normal, it's a steady thing. And, you couldn't really like convince anybody of anything.
Yeah.
But when Bitcoin came around, um, and it slowly started to gain adoption, that's when people started to change with it, because you just
Mhm.
had, okay, you've got this real world application that took the money, that you could buy and have it gain value, instead of have something that lost value. And when people saw that, it was, now look at it, they're like, man, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin way back in the day. Um, and nobody nowadays says, oh, I wish I would have, held on. I wish I would have put more dollars in my savings account, or, I wish I would have put more dollars under my mattress. Nobody says that, because, dollars obviously go down in value. So, so the biggest way,
Mhm.
historically, to change hearts and minds has been agorism too. Has been, uh, making the current system that we have obsolete. So, uh, yeah.
I mean, that is the truth, and I'm a Christian, but I am a very esteemed advocate for what the early church did, and the early church was had that agorist nature and how it kind of took over. And then just like you can kind of compare it to like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was hijacked, Bitcoin was co-opted. Well, so was the early church as it was becoming more and more affluent, a lot more influence, and then eventually the political systems of the day realized, in Rome realized, Constantine realized, this is what needs to be done if I want to hold on to my power. We have to we have to figure out a way to consolidate and organize and make this the supreme religion. And so I think that's what I'm seeing. And I think for both of you guys, you're seeing the same thing. What we're seeing with the positives of the blockchain and the initial Bitcoin adoption, you're starting to see these governmental powers realize we can use this for our own, and we can co-opt it and turn it into our own little reserve, because we're almost $40 trillion in debt. We got to figure out something, and that's where we're coming into this shadow realm of the CBDC. So for everything, but Bitcoin, the blockchain's been wonderful because it's still going to continuously compete against this upcoming CBDC that they're trying to implement, which they've done already. Already had. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you've got to control the on ramps and the off ramps, which they put laws into place, and what they're going to try to do is basically make it. If you want to legally comply, they're going to make it extremely difficult to use, freedom money, and make it super convenient to use, central bank backed digital currencies. So, so when central bank backed digital currencies have full adoption, they'll make it, super convenient. They might pass a law saying that everyone has to accept it, and stuff like that, and they'll even probably have UBI, universal basic income, or welfare will be attached to it. So they'll be able to get adoption with it very quickly. That's why they wanted to hijack Bitcoin, because they're like, holy shit, we're not ready yet. We are not ready for this. We have to slow this thing down. So how do you slow it down? Everyone would, there were huge companies that were accepting it. I think Steam was accepting it. I think
Steam at one time.
Wow.
yeah, Microsoft,
Microsoft was a big.
Overstock.com, Microsoft, yeah. I mean, there were huge companies that were accepting it, and now they don't. And if anyone wants more information on that, they should definitely check out Hijacking Bitcoin. But yeah, they wanted the block to keep the block small so that transactions were super expensive. There's the whole debate about, like, oh, if you increase the block size, then you lose the people who can run nodes and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, all you had to do was, right now Bitcoin is the block size is a megabit, so that's less than your floppy drive, or your floppy disk. The floppy's like 1.44
Megabits.
Yeah, so if you had increased the block size to 3 megabits or something, it would still be very easy to keep your the majority of your node runners, and everything would have been fine, and transactions would have stayed cheap, and so on and so forth. And as technology had gotten better and cheaper, okay, what's one more megabit? Do you really want, by the year 2050, do you really want, Raspberry Pis from 2012 to still be able to run nodes? No, you don't. That's because we're trying to create freedom money for everyone. And you can't have mass adoption. You can't have millions of transactions with 1 megabit block size. You have to increase it. And Satoshi Nakamoto even has a quote saying saying that you increase the block size as needed. You know, there's he, and that quote proves that he never wanted a cap on it at all. So
It was an artificial cap just for the, until as things progressed.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't necessarily want it to be, you wouldn't want it to be like a gigabyte block size, right? Because then, you would eliminate like a lot of your node runners. But yeah, I mean, just increasing it a megabit, well, you would have still kept the majority of your node runners, and you would have still had cheap and easy, fast transactions. And it still would have been, plenty decentralized. So, they just really wanted to keep it small to lessen adoption so that they could buy themselves time to get the technology ready for CBDCs and government control.
As always, as always. So, with that, I'm going to throw in this ad right here to do a little plugging before we continue. So, Buds in Reality, speaking of some politically charged, anarchist, libertarian point of view, check out Buds in Reality. Actually, I think we're going head to head right now. Hopefully, we're winning, Sean. Hopefully, we're winning. Just kidding. But check out Buds in Reality. Like, subscribe, follow them everywhere across the podcast sphere, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Repost, follow Buds in Reality. Check him out because that is a man with a whole lot to say. Buds in Reality. Check him out. Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay.
Plugging for the fam. So,
Right?
but speaking of everything though, when it comes to the blockchain, when it comes to markets in general, you're about ready to publish a book off of or has it been published yet, Brandon? Off of Agorist Nexus, a biography of the man himself, Samuel Edward Konkin III. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that book's going to entail and how it's going to open up people to SEK3 and hopefully to agorism.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, what an honor to publish this. First first ever, biography. It's kind of more of like a memoir, but it's got it's got enough in there to be, biography like biography. So but yeah, it's great. It was released December 20th. You guys can get that on if you go to agoristnexus.com/shop. Or if you go into Agorist Nexus and you hit agoristnexus.com and you hit bookstore, it's right in there. And we accept crypto for it and all everything. So yeah, it's definitely a great book. What an honor it is to publish a book by Wendy McElroy. She's the OG. She brought back the voluntarist movement way back when. The original voluntarist movement was in the I think it was in the 1800s, late 1800s, I believe, and then it kind of fell off. But her and Karl Wapner and George, they all brought it back. So yeah, she's like the founder of the modern voluntarist movement. Um, and if you don't know Wendy McElroy, you definitely should. She was drinking buddies with Konkin, and a really good friend of Samuel Edward Konkin III, and she was mentored by she was mentored by Konkin, but she was also mentored by Rothbard. So I mean,
Nice.
and then she was friends with Carl Wagner and George. So she's a legend. She's a legend
I was,
in and of herself, and
could,
very talented writer. She's published all kinds of stuff. Sorry, did I cut you off?
oh, I was gonna say, could you call Wendy the modern Emma Goldman?
Yeah, I mean, probably. She's great, man. She's even got some like legendary quotes. Every once in a while, I'll post one of her quotes, and it'll get great reception. So she's got a couple out there that are uh, that are pretty legendary. The book, I'll just read the blurb here real fast. The unique and rambunctious Samuel Edward Konkin III should be a beacon to anyone who lives freedom and knows the rollicking joy of intellectual hearsay. Restoring him to prominence is a matter of justice. Wendy McElroy's intimate memoir of her old friend allows us to meet the irrepressible Sec 3 as a man and to explore the philosophy of agorism that he created without obscuring his flaws. Sec 3 is introduced to readers through the roles he is most relish: a trusted friend, a mentor, a science fiction fan, an erudite, and an original thinker. Meet one of the most remarkable people that freedom has produced. And yeah, man, it's such a great book. I mean, once you get to chapter 3 on agorism, people have told me that they fall in love with it. It's very, very good. So um, uh, there's a couple really good spots where the Agorists are like calling out Milton Friedman at one of his conferences. Um, that's in there, and it was on the income tax, like auto deducting from paychecks, and of course the Agorists will correct, and we're like, we don't want that,
Hmm.
but they were kind of rude about it. But it's funny that that's in there. Another thing about this book is that it's our hope that this book will establish Sec 3's neglected contribution to freedom. He's done so much for the liberty movement in general, but nobody ever talks about him. You don't really hear about him that much. Everyone talks about Rothbard and all these other names, but
Hmm.
you never really hear about Sec 3, and he contributed a lot more than a lot of people think. And this book has a lot. This book will tell you all about it. So
Hmm.
it when we published this book, it felt the day of the publish, December 20th. I was drinking coffee in the morning, and I felt like this euphoric feeling because it's like I had thrown more of Konkin's spirit into the world when on the published date, and that was pretty satisfying for me. So, um,
Hmm.
uh, you really get to the core of this book, and kind of how Konkin's thinking, progressed over time, and how agorism came into existence, and all of the philosophy behind it as well. There's a really cool part in here where he says, let me get the exact phrase here for you. Oh yeah. Uh, my ideas are okay. So here's what uh, here's Sec 3 explains his own motivation to create. He says, my ideas are pieces of what passes for my soul, or if you prefer, ego. Therefore, every time someone adopts one of them, a little piece of me has infected them. And the guy was so interesting, man. Like if you if you he was a genius. He's absolutely a genius. And the way that he breaks things down and comes up with this idea, and his writings are uh you know just so important. And I think everybody needs to hear about them. And yeah, it's definitely definitely check out the book. It's so good. And I can't I the thing about the book too is that it's written by Wendy McElroy. uh but so many people have helped bring this thing into existence. um Mostly Wendy, of course, because she wrote it. Uh
Yeah,
but you've got all the pieces there. You've got the graphic designer, um Matt at Agorist Nexus Studios did like the main design for the front cover. Jeremiah Harding did the main design for the back cover, and then Shane Radcliffe helped like with the back cover a little bit to kind of format it. Um, and
Very nice artwork.
and
it is. It's fantastic artwork.
and then you had Graham Smith do the proofreading. I mean, you don't really have to proofread much with Wendy's work, but to be able to proofread Wendy's work, you have to really know your stuff. Um, so yeah, man, so many people, and then Jeremiah Harding coined the name. We wanted to be like Samuel Edward Konkin III, but we didn't really know exactly. We kind of had like revolutionary something something in mind, but revolutionary friend is just was the perfect title for it. And
And he
yeah,
was. He was.
we're definitely happy for it. I think it was a monumental publishing, because there's almost no information about Conkin's life out there at all. So
And finally, it's going to be out there because this is somebody. Conkin is somebody that everybody should know, and yet nobody really knows about him. So I'm glad. I can't wait for. I'm going to cop this copy, and I'm going to make sure that I read it because it's going to be an interesting read. I can't wait to jump into it myself. How about you, Andrew?
I'm looking
Wally?
forward to it too. Maybe I can borrow a lock of his hair.
I was gonna say, yeah, that this is gonna be a poor taste joke. Everybody, I'm warning you. But is there any way that we can get a lock of hair from Sec 3 for Andrew? Maybe he can grow some hair.
yeah, I'll see what I could do.
Thanks.
So only for you, Andrew. So no, that's everybody cop this. I mean, go over, buy. You said you can buy it for either fiat $20, or it looks like, or buy it in crypto. So
That's the
I mean,
that's the paperback, the one that
mhm,
you got there. That's the paperback one.
yeah.
Um, but there's also the digital one. The digital one's like $10,
Oh,
but
even better.
so worth it, dude. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, it is kind of nice having a physical copy, but yeah.
Yeah, I always like physical copies because I'd rather because you never know in the chaos of this world, like when they're gonna shut down the power grid or something happen. God forbid we end up in a war and the power grid gets annihilated by bombs, and then what happens to your digital copy? I mean, it's kind of lost. I mean, you can back it up, obviously, but what happens when you can't really the flash drive becomes useless if you can't use the computer. So, I
It,
mean, that's where I would prefer to spend the extra $10 and get the paperback. So, but yeah, I mean, digital or paperback.
for me, it's kind of just nostalgia. I like to just,
Yep.
there's really no like digital. There wasn't really any digital books when I was a kid. It was everything was physical. The internet didn't even go public till 1993. So yeah, everything was in like libraries and stuff when I was a kid, and uh,
Hmm.
just holding the book in your hand is kind of nostalgia. But Agorist Nexus actually makes more money off of the digital copies. So
Nice. Nice.
the,
Well, it
the,
is a digital
the
world
physical.
out
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
with you. I'm the same with you. Nostalgia, and then the fact that you just don't know what might happen, and then you
yeah.
don't
I
have a
mean,
digital copy.
we don't believe in IP or anything. We don't believe in intellectual property. The book's
Hmm.
not even copyrighted. Really, you could, um, you got pretty much anybody could do pretty much anything they want with the book, except for, well, all we ask is that you keep the book in its original form. Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, I don't even mind. You know, um, we did use a lot of resources to um, resources to be able to put this book out into existence. Wendy McElroy, she's very busy. She's got all the stuff that she's still trying to accomplish, and to free up her time was quite expensive. And then you've got all the publishing fees. You've got the designers, you've got the editor, you've got uh, I don't even, it's going to take years for me to even just break zero on this thing. But um, I hope that my efforts bring, some small reward. So, it's uh, you know, when we were talking about it, um, and I was thinking about it, I was like, should I do this? Like, I don't know. And it was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Even if I lose money on it, um, it would be so worth it to throw more of Konkin's spirit out into the world. And I pulled the trigger, man. So yeah, it's awesome that when he could write it. I'm honored that I could, you know,
Facilitate.
uh, yeah,
Hmm.
do any small thing to be able to get this thing out into the world. So yeah,
And that's awesome. Yeah, that is
so
awesome.
rate it 5 stars on rate it 5 stars on Amazon, and you guys can buy it directly through Agorist Nexus with cryptocurrency, or you could buy it on Amazon. So digital or physical. Uh, you can't buy physical copies on the Agorist Nexus, but yeah, and all the links
Nice.
for that are on our website.
Mm.
Cool.
Which we will make sure it's down in the description below. So yeah, we'll make sure it's down in the description. If I haven't already, I probably forgot. So I will make sure that's in the description, everybody. So,
Yeah.
but Agorist Nexus. So The last thing that we should probably get on, because we always go over time, Andrew. But you know what? Who cares? Because we're having a chat. It's like fireside chats, except for it's not a communist like FDR. Um, but you wanted to mention
I do have
about
another podcast. I do have another podcast at 7:30. So
okay.
I gotta leave before 7:30 to set it up and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I do want to go over this real quick.
Yeah.
I I did get I did get hacked myself, but Agorist Nexus, the and I have to be transparent about it because if you go to Agorist Nexus, there's a lot of companies and uh, user logins and stuff, and so I do want to be transparent about the hack, and basically I g- I had like an issue, and um, I got in touch with the legitimate company. It was their legitimate customer service. It was a legitimate employee. Well, except for
Hmm.
the name they told me wasn't legitimate, but they had sent me a link to go to, and I usually check and stuff, but my guard was down, and I clicked on the link, and it looked like the page was loading, but it's actually loading something onto my computer,
Mm.
and I wouldn't have even noticed it, um, uh, but I wouldn't have even noticed it really if I always like have my task manager. I've always got my task manager like super close to me, but I noticed like small fluctuations in like memory and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
there might be something going on here, and yeah, that's how I found out about it, and yeah. The we just came we and to be transparent about it, actually made a statement um on Agorist Nexus's X page here. Let's see. Um, Security status report for Agorist Nexus. Subject login security activity assessment. And we'll have more security reports coming soon, but
Hmm.
date the date of this report, date January 24th, 2025. A comprehensive audit of the Agorist Nexus website and its associated hosting services has been conducted. The assessment confirms that there have been no instances of unauthorized or foreign logins, nor any detected hacks or security breaches across all monitored endpoints and access logs. So, but we'll keep an eye on that and assess stuff going further. But yeah, it really sucked.
Hmm.
Uh, the hacker was still, yeah, like I had wiped everything. I don't even use that device right now. Uh, um, but I wiped everything, and the hacker was still there. Um, So yeah, it's kind of like identity theft, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
if, but when you get your identity stolen. Hacks are you know the same way. Um, so yeah, uh, so yeah, it is what it is, and we've had full transparency about the case. We
Hmm.
have investigated, and we're continuing to monitor and assess the situation as we go forward. Um,
Of course.
but yeah, man. I'm ready to plug. If you guys let me, I'll plug away.
Yeah, go right ahead. So go right ahead, plug away.
Cool, man. Yeah. Uh, you know, if you guys want to support Agorist Nexus, I do a lot. I do way more than your average three. It's like the cost of a candy bar, $3. And on X, if you subscribe, and my subscribers get like all kinds of perks, man. Like, um, I'll regularly like share posts from my subscribers. I'll interact with them. I've got two or three. I can't remember, but two or three different group chats just for my um, subscribers, and those are really cool. There's one group chat that I really focus on, and that's the one people pay me on, and um, stuff like that. And I'll give them, I'll not only interact with them, but I'll show them my mango farm in Mexico. Never before seen. I never showed on the internet, only to my subscribers. And it's a big property, and we've got all kinds of stuff here, and not just mango trees, but
Nice.
all kinds of fruit trees. Lots of infrastructure, lots of cool stuff, a dam, stuff like that. And hopefully, when my trees are full grown, some of them are already giving me fruit. And there were a couple big trees on this property beforehand, but really there's nothing here, and we built up all the infrastructure to be able to support tree farm, and have everything watered. We've got tanks all over the place. This dam's really cool looking. A lot of the stuff's really creative, how we set all this stuff up. And yeah, I get to show you footage of that. There's, you get a backstage pass to Agorist Nexus. You get to know what's going on behind the scenes. I'll have some really cool news and information here. I'll show you the kind of coins, the crypto coins that I'm looking at. And I don't fuck around with projects. I'm not going to show you, something, I'm not going to show you fart coin or anything, so I show you, I'll show you coins that are actually, worth looking at. So again, none of that stuff's financial advice or anything, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on any kind of coin or anything. I just kind of show you what I'm looking at. And there's also other stuff that I do too. I not only like and share your posts and share all that stuff, but I've got other stuff in mind too. And what else? Oh, at the end of February, I'm shutting down early supporters. So if you want to be an early supporter, get in before February, and you get to be enshrined. Early supporters get to be enshrined on the Agorist Nexus website. You can be enshrined in Agorist Nexus history. So only $3. 100% of the funds go towards projects. Right now, mostly articles for writers to write, for Agorist authors to write articles. And I'm 100% transparent with where the funds are going, so that you know that every single dollar that you send to Agorist Nexus goes to the cause, man, for the revolution. So
Nice. So make sure you subscribe to Agorist Nexus, and thank you again, Brandon, for coming on. It's been awesome to have you on. Awesome to get your take, and just thank you for coming on.
yeah, anytime, guys. And whenever you want to have me on, just let me know. I'm down.
Will do. We'll have to definitely do it again. So other than that, let's take off. Andrew, you have anything else to say for the outro, or?
Just if you need to get a hold of me at AICon90 on X, I'm not too terribly big on social media, but just hit me up. I'll do what I can to help you.
Will do. Well, thank you again, Brandon. See you on the flip side. I am the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. That's Andrew Joseph. That's Brandon of Agorist Nexus. And live long and prosper. Peace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve Roosevelt. I'd like to welcome you to WCW Nitro.
You know, brother, you think you know what it takes to beat Hollywood Hogan once you climb in the ring and try out the largest arms in the world. Holy snap.
You want to wrestle an inch more Ric Flair, you gotta be able to walk that out and style and profile. Woo!
You really think you're ready for the spin?
You really think you're ready for the Scorpion Deathlock? You think you're ready for a fatal encounter?
This is why they call me the total package. Do you have a pain threshold to withstand the butcher rack? Let's find out.
Hallo, hier ist Alex Wright. Wenn ihr High-Flying Wrestling Action wollt, Spinning Sidekick, mit Top Turnbuckle Dropkick, dann nehmt mich. Der Sieg ist euch sicher. Versprecht euch.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt him real bad.
It only takes one of 1,000 holds. I think you're man enough for the challenge.
You better be ready to wrestle, because you know, when you get in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's going to be high-flying and exciting.
Hey, anytime you feel froggy, man, I'll slap on the buzz killer and rip your shoulder right out of socket. Wolfpack style!
Hey, funky boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God! Pick the man with the plan. Pick DDP.
Hey, all you suckers out there, you wanna play the game? You wanna play with the big boy? Put your feet on the button, cause when you go down 110th Street, it's gonna be on like neck bone, sucker.
This is Booker T from Harlem Heat, hardcore OG brother from 110th Street. If any of you punks got the guts to step up to the plate, push the button.
Yo, Chico, you selected Scott Hall? Get ready for a wild ride on the outside.
Hey there! How'd you like to get power pop? Come on, pick me. I'm begging you, pick me. Please pick me.
You think you got the courage to step in the ring? I think you're gonna wind up with a snapped neck with a choke slam.
Technical wrestler, high flyer, brawler. Don't matter what you consider yourself to be. When you're in the ring with the crippler, you're a loser.